I'm not a game developer, I'm just a game reviewer, and not a very good one. I've been playing Red Dead Redemption 2 for 50 plus hours, trekking across the vast and wild frontier as the gruff but lovable Arthur Morgan. I've made a deep connection with him and my horse, named after my lovely girlfriend, who was not a horse. I've followed them both on a journey across a giant open-world map as Arthur wrestles between his morals and the loyalty that raised him. It's a big, ambitious story with more character depth than I've ever experienced in a game. Ever. But as a video game, first and foremost, I have a hard time raising it to the masterpiece status that everyone has awarded Red Dead Redemption 2. Hey everybody, Dylan here from the Tech Dork Times, and this is our review of Red Dead Redemption 2. So, about a quarter of the way through my playtime, I was riding through the wilds just outside of Valentine, which is the first big city that you find in the game. Or not big city, town. Ugh. It's nighttime, I'm on my way to an objective which I can't remember, but I see a trail of smoke just off the road. And I decide, like any good cowboy, I'm gonna check it out. So I get off the road, and I go to the fire, and I find one guy sitting there on his own, and he's drunk as anything, and he offers me to come over and sit down with him. So I oblige, I sit down next to him, and he drunkenly tells me the story of all the terrible things he's done in his life. He leans back in his chair, he's slurring, the whole thing was so surreal and immersive, it was insane. And as he gets about halfway through a sentence, he stops, and he looks at me and he says, "If you want to hear more, I'm gonna need some more whiskey." So, I look through my satchel, I find that I have some whiskey, and I hand it to him. He takes it, he drinks it, he proceeds to pass out and fall off his stump or stool or whatever, and he's out like a light. So I'm sitting there beside the fire, staring up at the beautiful stars, looking at this drunk guy passed out, wondering what the heck just happened, and I decide to rob him. I don't feel great about that. But the big point of this is, I still can't stop thinking about that interaction. I still feel guilty about robbing this guy in a game world. I also should say that this all took place in real time, meaning this was a dynamic moment. No cutscenes, no having to navigate dialogue menus or anything like that. I just experienced this separate from the main game. And that's absolutely the best thing about Red Dead Redemption 2. This big, bold, immersive world that you just absolutely get lost in. I actually developed a routine where every morning I'd get up, get my coffee, sit down at my table, fire up the game, and I would do the same thing in the game. As Arthur, I would wake up in camp, I would drink my coffee, and it was the most meta experience I think I've ever had in gaming. But I was looking forward to those mundane routines that made me feel like I was really a part of the Red Dead Redemption world. And to me, that's a huge selling point for this game and a reason why I think most people should check this game out. But I do feel a little let down by the gameplay and these really tedious travel sections where you're just riding your horse forever and ever and ever. But before we get into gameplay and story and all the nitty-gritty, this video is sponsored by a gift from my girlfriend. It says, I went to Blackwater and all I got was punched in the face because I mixed up the controls and accidentally threatened a guy, shot a guy. I could look. Tried to say howdy. Does that even make sense? I don't know. It's a great gift. Thank you very much, girlfriend. I love you. She's over there. She's smiling. So first off, as far as gameplay is concerned, I do want to get the bad stuff out of the way first. I find the controls to be very clunky in all the biggest segments of the game. And by biggest, I mean the moments where you're in shootouts with other gangs or all the action set pieces. They feel very awkward and stumbly, and there's too many kind of just clunky pieces to this. Yeah. And to prove this point to you, there is an aim assist in the shooting mechanics of the game, meaning that when you aim at an enemy, it snaps to the enemy, and you can repeat this over and over again by letting go of the aim button and pressing it again. It'll snap to the closest enemy to your reticle. I think that tells you all you need to know about the setup of these controls. If you need to add an aim assist, don't you think maybe you should just make the aiming better? I don't know. I'm not a game developer. I'm just a game reviewer, and not a very good one. There's still some really awesome moments when you have your gun out. There's like duels that are really cool. Everything slows down and you have to press the trigger to a certain point. I actually still haven't figured out duels, to be honest, but they're still awesome. They're just really hard. They're not exactly intuitive, so maybe that's actually a strike against it. But the idea of a duel is really cool. And then if you played the first game, there is still Deadeye or, what's it called? It's like bullet time in a lot of other games, so everything slows down and you can actually tag all of the targets around you, and it is so satisfying to tag like 5 guys and just watch them all. I feel like this game is actually sponsored by the gun sound. But even with those cool elements to the gunplay, it's not enough. It's a letdown overall, unfortunately. That a game that's all about being an outlaw and fighting other gangs and stuff like that, you would think the gun controls would be a lot smoother, and they're just not. So unfortunately, that's a pretty big strike against Red Dead Redemption 2. And then there's these brutally long travel sections where you go from wherever you start a mission to wherever the mission actually takes place. There's some really interesting back and forth because you're usually riding with someone from your gang or just another character in the game. So it's not like the worst thing ever, but I just found myself tuning out a little bit and going, okay, when are we going to get to where we need to go? And I get that it's a really big, sprawling world, and that really helps to highlight that. But once you get like 30 hours in and you're just riding for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it gets a little tedious. Mountains. Lake. Still going, still going. I never got tired of the scenery. This is one of the most beautiful games, probably the most beautiful game that's ever been realized. So for that alone, if you have a great monitor and a great gaming setup, it's worth buying just to explore the world because it's really richly detailed. But even that has its limits when you are traveling for 5 to 7 minutes from one point to the next, and I really don't think that's an exaggeration. It's a really long time. Now fortunately, the gameplay does have a lot of really great things going for it. Specifically the mini-games. I'm calling them mini-games, they're really more like activities or side quests, I guess. Everything from hunting animals, and there's actually legendary versions of all the animals that you can go to their hunting grounds and use clues to find them, and that's a really great little game. Bonding with your horse, feeding them, tending to them, and just growing a relationship with this animal is fantastic. But my favorite thing about this game is any moment where you're cooking and crafting by your own fire or your camp's fire. So basically the setup of the game is you are part of an outlaw gang, and you have a mobile camp that's moving from place to place throughout the stretch of the game. But at that camp, you can do all sorts of activities. You can play games with your other outlaws. You can go on activities like hunting and fishing with other outlaws. You can just sit around and drink by the fire at night or have a coffee and walk by everyone, and you can interact with people in real time. It is the most immersive thing ever, and again, a huge selling point for this game, even though I feel let down by the gameplay and these really long travel sections. And as I review everything I'm saying that I love about this game, I'm realizing that a lot of these activities sound so mundane and boring, like just living a regular life. And that's because they are. But the detail in this game is so fantastic, and I keep saying detail and immersion, but that's really what this game is all about. The way that Rockstar has realized this world makes even the most boring task in real life feel amazing in this game. Again, it's just a shame that the big action pieces feel like a letdown. But outside of that, everything is so great. I actually looked forward to going back to the game just to have my cup of coffee or just to check in on some of the other gang members. Like Sadie. I love Sadie. You're gonna love Sadie too. So yeah, Red Dead doesn't fare so well in the gunplay and action set pieces, but when it comes to side quests, little activities to do on the side, and just generally exploring the world, this game is an A+. No questions. And then there is the story. Howdy, partner. There is not a single howdy partner in this game, which maybe is a bit of a letdown if you have the same idea of westerns that I do. But what you're in store for is a really epic 40 to 60 hour story about Arthur Morgan, who has been raised an outlaw his entire life and is slowly trying to be a better person. And he finds himself in conflict with the loyalty that raised him and these burgeoning morals. Those darn morals, they'll get you every time! Like I said, it's definitely an epic tale, but it's also told on a very intimate scale, if that makes sense. You have this group of outlaws who have really become a family, and there's all kinds of conflicts between them, but they really care for each other, and they really want to just seemingly get out of the game. The character work in this game is off the charts. Arthur Morgan is one of the most memorable protagonists I think that has ever existed, just for how well realized he is, and how much time you actually get to spend with him to learn what makes him tick and what he's struggling with and all sorts of stuff. And let me tell you, there's a lot of struggles in the Wild Wild West. And that's just scratching the surface. Every other character feels like a living, breathing person. I mean every single person, whether that's someone you're just walking by in a town, you accidentally shoulder in a city or whatever, everyone feels like they're going somewhere to do something. They're not just there revolving around you. And that, again, just lends to the incredible immersive quality to this game. I will say there is a chapter in the middle, I think it's chapter 4 maybe, that just feels like this weird diversion that wasn't needed, and as I review the entire story, I don't think there was much that was necessary to push the story forward. It just felt like filler, and that's frustrating in a story that's so good, but I'm not going to harp on it too much because everything else is so gripping that it's easy to forget that. And above and beyond all of that, no spoilers at all, but I will say that I found the payoff to everything incredibly satisfying, which is super important if you're going to play for 40 to 60 hours. You want to make sure that the climax delivers, that the ending delivers, and this one absolutely does. Overall, the story and characters combined with the incredible attention to detail in this world make this game work way better than it should, considering how clunky the gunplay is and how long and tedious some of the travel segments are in this game. And as I said, it's the most beautiful game I think that's ever existed. I think I actually said that about The Last of Us Part 2 as well, that it's the most beautiful game ever, but that's more in a cinematic way. Red Dead 2 definitely gets the edge over it simply because it's an open world and you can go anywhere you see, which is amazing, and it's all beautiful. Time for the Tech Dork verdict. Verdict. All that southern drawls got me feeling some type of way. So who should buy this game? Anyone who loves immersive worlds, attention to detail, story development, character depth, and also anyone who likes life simulators, which might seem like not at all what Red Dead Redemption 2 is, but I think that's one of the issues with the way it's marketed or the way it presents itself, is it seems like an action-focused game, and it really isn't. It's about character, and it's about existing in a very immersive world. So anyone who loves those things, you will absolutely adore this. Think games like Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing, and that does sound weird to suggest Stardew Valley in the same breath as Red Dead Redemption 2, but the reason I say that is because the gunplay is a little bit off, and there is an aim assist, and that piece of the game actually ends up being very easy and probably the most forgettable part of it. There's a few set pieces that are pretty cool, but for the most part, those aren't the things I remember. I remember things like the story I told you at the very beginning of this video, or any of the fishing trips that I went on with some of the other gang members, or hunting trips, or just sitting around the fire and listening to other people tell stories. That's what I remember about this game, and those are absolutely the highlights of Red Dead Redemption 2! If you are someone who wants to just exist in a truly detailed, fully immersive world, then Red Dead 2 is for you. And if you have any apprehensions about this game, I don't think it's great for people who are looking for really slick action-adventure games where it's a shoot-'em-up, you can run around and you have a lot of control over your character. There's just too many little awkward control mechanics, like the walk speed is crazy slow. And then if you're someone who doesn't typically stick it out for really long games, like think 40 to 60 hour long campaigns, this is not the game for you. It is very meaty, and it's absolutely worthwhile if you stick it out till the end, but it's a long game, and maybe if you're looking to play something a little bit more casually, or you want to play a bunch of games in sequence, then Red Dead Redemption 2 is probably not for you. There's much shorter games and much more casual games that will get you the same feeling as Red Dead 2 without the commitment. Yeah, overall, this is a hard game not to recommend to most gamers to at least experience. If you have the budget to buy a AAA game, this is probably a really good place to start. Red Dead 2 will absolutely go down in the history of gaming as an incredible, stunning achievement. So if you are someone who just loves video games in general, you have to check this out. It's like an Oscar-winning movie. You've got to watch it if you love cinema. It definitely won't be to everyone's taste, and you might be disappointed after having played it, but I think it'll be hard for most people not to spend at least 10, maybe 20 hours in this game. So if that seems like a good trade-off for your time and your money, then giddy up. I'm giving Red Dead Redemption 2 an 8.3 out of 10 for a beautifully realized open world hurt only by clunky controls and tedious travel segments that don't really add anything to the experience. But who cares what I think? What do you guys think of Red Dead 2? Is it truly a masterpiece? Who is your favorite character in the Van der Linde gang? It better be Sadie. It better be. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We will be posting all kinds of reviews from the biggest AAA titles to even some indie sleeper hits, so check out that. And also, keep tuned, Dylan, please, what does that even mean? Stay tuned for the Tech Dork Trials, a new weekly segment where I will be playing games for the first time and streaming myself and my first impressions. It should be a lot of fun. And if you have any recommendations for the Tech Dork Trials, games you think we have to play, I have to play, leave a comment below and let us know what you think. Until the next video, stay safe and, as always, stay dorky.